I never imagined the day would come when my own daughter would look me in the eye and say something so cruel it would break my heart in half. Don't ruin my big day. Mom, just sign the check and stay out of it. Her words sliced through me like glass. We were standing in the middle of the bridal boutique, with lace dresses draped around us and her fiancé, Daniel, leaning casually in the corner. He didn't even hide his smirk. He was enjoying the scene, watching my daughter raise her voice against me like I was nothing more than an obstacle in her fairy tale wedding. I had saved for years, $90,000 tucked away, piece by piece from my late husband's life insurance and my own small business earnings. That money was meant to be a gift, a blessing for her future. But instead of gratitude, I was met with demands, insults, and worst of all, betrayal. Because just an hour before, I had overheard something I wasn't supposed to. Daniel whispering to his groomsmen on the phone, saying, "Once the house is signed over, we're set. She doesn't even know her brother's cut out of it. Emily's parents are clueless." Those words shook me. The house? Signed over? My son cut out? And me reclueless? I didn't know the full truth yet, but in that moment, I knew enough. My daughter wasn't just blinded by love. She was being used, manipulated. And when I tried to warn her, to slow her down, she turned on me. Don't ruin my big day. That was the last straw. I looked her straight in the eyes, my heart aching, and said quietly, "Then your big day won't be paid for with my money." Her face went pale. Daniel's smirk vanished. And in that bridal shop, with strangers staring at us in shock, I made the decision that would change everything. I canceled the $90,000 wedding fund, but little did they know, that was only the beginning. The truth about our family, about inheritance, about loyalty and betrayal, it was all about to come crashing down. After I canceled the $90,000 wedding fund in that bridal shop, the air went so still I could hear my own heartbeat. Emily's face turned red, her lips trembling between anger and shock. Daniel stepped forward, placing his hand on her shoulder like he was protecting her, but the smirk never left his face. "You can't be serious, Mom," Emily whispered, her voice low but venomous. "You promised me this. Dad would have wanted this." And just like that, she used her father's memory like a weapon. My late husband, John, had always adored her. He was softer with her than with Michael, our son. He had a way of spoiling Emily, while pushing Michael to be the strong one. Maybe that's why Emily thought she could manipulate me so easily, because she had always been Daddy's girl. But she forgot something. I was the one who held that bank account. I was the one who worked 2 jobs after John passed just to make sure both my children had a chance at a decent future. I promised to help, I told her firmly, not to hand everything over blindly. "Not when I hear things I can't ignore?" Daniel raised his eyebrows. "What things?" I looked at him. His sharp suit, his polished shoes, his expensive watch, all things I knew my daughter hadn't bought for him. He reeked of someone who lived off other people's money. "I'll tell you when the time is right," I said coldly. Emily gasped, like I had just slapped her. "So you're spying on us now? This is my wedding, not yours. You don't get to control me anymore!" Her words stung. "But I didn't flinch, Emily," I said softly. "I love you. But I won't fund a future built on lies." Her eyes narrowed. She turned away from me, whispering something to Daniel. He smirked again, and in that moment I realized something terrifying. My daughter wasn't just in love. She was under his control. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring at John's old armchair, clutching the wedding fund folder in my lap. My chest felt heavy. Michael walked in quietly, still in his work clothes. My son had always been the quiet one, thoughtful, steady. Where Emily was fire, Michael was calm water. He noticed the tears in my eyes instantly. "Mom? What happened?" I told him everything. Emily's words, Daniel's smirk, the phone call I had overheard. Michael's jaw tightened, his fists clenching. "I knew it," he muttered. "I've never trusted him. He looks at her like she's a prize, not a person. And the way he avoids me? Like he knows I see through him," I sighed. "I just don't understand why she can't see it. She's blinded, Michael. She thinks he's her whole future." Michael sat beside me, his hand on mine. "Then we have to protect her, even if she hates us for it." I nodded, but in my heart I wondered if Emily would ever forgive me for what I was about to do. The next morning, Aunt Rose called. My sister, blunt, protective, and always quick to spot a fraud. "I heard what happened at the shop," she said. "Half the town is talking about it already. You did the right thing. That man is no good, her voice was sharp. Watch him, sis. Men like that don't just want weddings. They want houses, bank accounts, inheritance. Her words echoed Daniel's phone call in my head. The house. The inheritance, I froze. What did Daniel know that I didn't? And just then, as if the universe was mocking me, the phone rang again. This time it was Lawyer Harris, our longtime family lawyer. His voice was calm but urgent. Mrs. Thompson, I think it's time we talk about your late husband's estate. There are matters concerning Emily's wedding that I believe you should know. My hand shook as I held the phone. 2 days later, Emily showed up at my house with Daniel at her side. She didn't hug me, didn't even say hello. She walked in like she owned the place. Here, she said, slamming a folder onto the table. Daniel and I talked to some friends. For security, we need you to sign the property papers. That way the house can be collateral for the wedding venue. It's just a formality. Collateral? For a wedding? My stomach twisted. I opened the folder. It wasn't just about collateral. These papers would transfer partial ownership of my house into their names. I looked up at my daughter in disbelief. Emily, do you even know what this means? She crossed her arms. It means you stop being difficult and start supporting me. I deserve this wedding, Mom. Dad would have given it to me. Daniel leaned forward, his voice smooth. It's the least you can do. Emily's happiness is priceless. And besides, he paused, smirking. You wouldn't want Michael to get the wrong idea about his share of things, right? My blood ran cold. How did he know about Michael and inheritance? I pushed the folder back across the table. No, Emily's eyes widened. No, I said firmly. I will not sign this. And if you think your happiness depends on me handing over everything I've worked for, then maybe you need to rethink your wedding. She slammed her hands on the table. You don't belong in this family if you can't support me. The words echoed in my ears. My own daughter telling me I didn't belong, but deep inside I knew something bigger was at play. And I was determined to find out the truth before it destroyed us all. After Emily stormed out with Daniel, slamming the door so hard the frames shook, Michael sat quietly in the corner of the living room. He didn't say a word for several minutes, just stared at the folder Emily had tried to make me sign. Finally, he muttered, So, I don't belong either, huh? His voice was bitter. My heart sank. Michael had always been the steady one, the responsible one. When John passed away, Michael stepped up. He helped me fix things around the house, drove me to doctor appointments, and worked double shifts to help pay for his college. He never asked for anything in return, and now his own sister was siding with a man who wanted to cut him out completely. Don't you dare think that, I told him firmly. You're my son. You've carried more responsibility than anyone your age should. If anything, you're the one who belongs most. Michael sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. It's just, she doesn't even see me, Mom. She treats me like I'm invisible. And Daniel? He acts like I'm the problem. Like I'm standing in the way of some grand plan. I leaned closer. You are standing in his way.
Because you see through him.
And that makes you dangerous to him. Michael looked at me with a heavy seriousness. Then he's not just after the wedding. He's after the family. His words sent a chill down my spine. Because deep down, I knew he was right. Later that evening, I overheard Emily on the phone in her room. She didn't know I was listening, but her voice carried down the hallway. Daniel, don't worry about Michael. Mom always caves eventually. She'll sign the papers. She just needs more guilt tripping. My hands shook. Guilt tripping? My daughter was plotting against me with her fiancé, and yet part of me still hoped. Maybe she was just blinded by love. Maybe Daniel was the real mastermind, but then I heard her laugh, cold, different, like she was becoming him. The next morning, I met with my friend Claire at the cafe downtown. She had been my confidant for years, and unlike Aunt Rose, she didn't jump to conclusions. I needed someone level-headed to give me perspective. I told her everything. The fight in the bridal shop, the property papers, Emily's phone call. Claire listened quietly, stirring her coffee without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned forward and whispered, I don't think you're being paranoid. I did some asking around. Daniel isn't who he says he is. My chest tightened.
What do you mean?
Claire lowered her voice. A friend of mine works at the bank. Daniel tried to take out a loan last year. He listed himself as self-employed, but his income didn't add up. He's drowning in debt. He's charming because he has to be. Men like him don't marry for love, they marry for lifelines. Her words stung, but they made sense. Too much sense. That evening, I called Aunt Rose again. She didn't sugarcoat. I told you, he's a leech. And Emily? She's letting him dig his claws in because she's too proud to admit she might be wrong. Her voice grew sharp. You need to protect Michael. You need to protect yourself. And don't you dare sign a thing until you talk to that lawyer. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Emily. Her voice on the other end was icy. Mom, Daniel, and I are having dinner tonight with his parents. They want you there. And don't embarrass me, okay? Just agree with what we say. My stomach nodded. Dinner with Daniel's parents? Something told me it wasn't just about pleasantries. The restaurant was upscale, the kind of place where the waiters looked down their noses if you didn't order wine with a foreign name. Emily sat beside Daniel, glowing in her designer dress, a dress I knew she hadn't bought with her own money. Across the table sat Mr. and Mrs. Carter, Daniel's parents. From the start, the conversation was tense. Mrs. Carter gushed about how fortunate Emily was to be marrying into their family. Mr. Carter, a tall man with a booming voice, asked pointed questions about my house, my savings, and future plans. It didn't feel like dinner. It felt like an interview. Or worse, an appraisal. When I hesitated at one of his questions, Daniel jumped in smoothly. Emily's parents are considering transferring part of their property for security. It's just a matter of time. I nearly dropped my fork. Excuse me. Emily kicked me under the table, hissing through her teeth. Don't ruin this, Mom. I clenched my jaw, forcing a smile to hide the fire boiling inside me. Actually, I said, my voice steady, I'm not transferring anything. My husband worked his whole life for that house. It's staying in the family. The table went silent. Then Daniel chuckled darkly. Well, we'll see about that. Won't we, Emily? And that's when Michael, who had insisted on coming with me, slammed his hand on the table. You're not taking anything from us. Not Mom, not the house. Not Dad's legacy. Emily shot him a glare that could have burned holes in steel. Stay out of this, Michael. This isn't about you, Michael's voice shook with anger. It's about all of us. And if you can't see that, then maybe you don't deserve to be part of this family. Her face went pale, then twisted with rage. She stood up so quickly her chair screeched against the floor. You're pathetic, she shouted at him. You're just jealous because Mom never loved you the way she loved me. The entire restaurant went silent. All eyes were on us. Michael's face crumpled with hurt, and my heart shattered into pieces. Emily had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. The morning after that disastrous dinner, my phone rang. It was Lawyer Harris asking me to come to his office. His tone was calm, but there was a weight in his words that made my stomach twist. When I arrived, he shut the door behind me and leaned across his desk. Mrs. Thompson, I've been reviewing your late husband's estate. Something doesn't add up, my pulse quickened. What do you mean? He slid a file across the desk. Inside were copies of documents I had never seen before, requests for property evaluations, bank statements flagged with inquiries, even an application for title transfer. These were filed just last month, Harris explained. But here's the strange part. They weren't filed by you. My hands shook as I flipped through the papers. The applicant's name glared up at me in black ink. Emily Thompson, co-signed by Daniel Carter. I couldn't breathe. My daughter, my own flesh and blood, had gone behind my back to start the process of taking my house. I stopped the process before it could advance, Harris assured me. But you need to understand, they're serious. This isn't just about a wedding. It's about control. I buried my face in my hands. Why would she do this? Why would my daughter betray me like this? Harris's voice softened. People in love can be manipulated. I've seen it before. And Daniel, he's after your assets. Plain and simple. I looked up at him, my eyes burning with tears. What do I do? He paused, then said, There's something about your husband's will you should know. But before I explain, I want you to promise me you won't share this with Emily or Daniel yet. My heart pounded. A secret about John's will? I promise, I whispered. Harris leaned closer. Your late husband left a clause in his estate plan that changes everything. And I think Daniel may already suspect it. I barely slept that night. Harris's words replayed in my head. A secret clause in John's will? Something that could change everything? The next day, Emily showed up again, this time without Daniel. She looked different, nervous, almost desperate. Mom, she began, her voice trembling. I know you're upset, but please just sign the papers. Daniel's parents are putting so much pressure on us. The venue won't hold our date unless we show collateral. If you love me, you'll do this. There it was again. If you love me. The weapon she kept pulling out whenever logic failed. I stared at her. Emily, do you even hear yourself? You're asking me to give up Dad's house for a party, a one-day event. Do you think that's what he would have wanted? Tears welled in her eyes, but behind them I saw stubborn pride. This isn't just about the wedding, Mom. Daniel says... She stopped suddenly, biting her lip. Daniel says what? I pressed, her eyes darted away. Nothing, just that you'll regret it if you don't support me. I froze. Regret it? Was that a threat? From my own daughter? Before I could ask more, she grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door. Not an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Claire. You won't believe what I just heard, she whispered. Daniel's been bragging around town, saying soon he and Emily will be the real owners of your property, that Michael's getting nothing, that he'll be the one taking care of you when you're older. My chest tightened. He was spreading lies already, laying the groundwork for his takeover, and if he was this confident, that meant he knew something. Something about John's will. I sat frozen in my chair, realizing Daniel wasn't just playing Emily, he was playing all of us. 2 days later, Harris called me again. This time he wanted me to come in with both children. He said it was important for them to hear what he had to reveal. Michael agreed immediately. Emily resisted at first, but when Daniel whispered something in her ear, she suddenly changed her mind. Fine, let's get this over with. We sat in Harris's office, me, Michael, Emily, and Daniel, who insisted on tagging along even though he wasn't family. Harris cleared his throat, opening a sealed envelope. Your husband's will included a special clause, he began. One that specifies the inheritance structure in case of remarriage, financial misconduct, or external influence. In short, the estate is protected against anyone who might manipulate the heirs. Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Harris continued. Specifically, the clause states that if either child marries someone with documented financial instability or legal disputes, their share of the estate will be withheld and redirected. Emily gasped.
What? That's not fair.
Harris raised an eyebrow. Your father wanted to ensure his legacy stayed intact. This wasn't about favoritism. It was about protection. Michael's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. Then Harris dropped the real bombshell. The clause is already triggered. Records show Daniel Carter has outstanding debts and a history of failed business ventures. Unless this marriage is called off, Emily's inheritance share will be frozen indefinitely. The room erupted. Emily leapt from her chair, pointing at Harris. You're lying. Daniel's not like that. Daniel stood too, his face flushed with anger. You can't do this. That estate belongs to Emily as much as Michael. But Harris's calm voice cut through the chaos. No, Mr. Carter, it belongs to the heirs under the conditions John Thompson set. And you, sir, are the very condition that voids her claim. Emily turned on me, her face twisted with fury. This is your fault. You wanted this. You don't care about me. You just want Michael to have everything. Tears stung my eyes. Emily, please listen. But she wasn't listening anymore. She stormed out, dragging Daniel with her. The door slammed so hard the walls rattled. I sat frozen in my chair, Harris's words echoing in my ears. My daughter had just lost her inheritance, and she blamed me for it. For the next week, Emily refused to answer my calls. Every message I sent came back with cold, one-word replies, if she responded at all. Michael tried to talk to her too, but she blocked his number. Then, on a rainy Friday night, she showed up at the house with Daniel by her side. Her hair was wet, her eyes red like she'd been crying, but her jaw was clenched in pure rage. You've ruined everything, she hissed the moment I opened the door. The lawyer. The inheritance. My wedding. Do you even care about me? Or is it always Michael, Michael, Michael? Her words felt like knives. Emily, please, I begged. This isn't about Michael. This is about your future. Your father wanted to protect you. Daniel stepped forward, his arm around her shoulder like a shield. No, this is about control. You can't stand that Emily has someone who actually puts her first. That's why you're clinging to this outdated will. Emily nodded furiously. You don't belong in this family if you can't support me. The same words again. That knife twisting deeper. Michael, who had been standing at the stairs, finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, but shaking with anger. Emily, do you even hear yourself? You're defending him over us, over Mom, over Dad's memory. You've changed. Her eyes flashed with fury. You're just jealous. Dad never loved you the way he loved me. That's why you'll never have what I deserve. Michael's face crumpled. My heart broke for him. I wanted to reach for Emily, to hold her, to remind her she was still my daughter. But before I could, Daniel pulled her back. Come on, Emily, they'll never understand. We don't need them. They left into the pouring rain, their figures fading into the night. And I realized I had lost my daughter. At least for now. The very next day, Lawyer Harris called me again. His voice was steady, but there was urgency beneath it. Mrs. Thompson, there's something I didn't reveal in front of Emily and Daniel. Something your husband wanted you to know privately. My breath caught. What is it? He invited me to his office. When I arrived, he pulled out a sealed envelope. Older, yellowed, clearly kept safe for years. This, Harris explained, is your husband's supplemental will. He wrote it shortly before his passing. It wasn't meant to replace the original, but to clarify his wishes. He wanted me to give it to you only when the estate came under threat. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, in John's familiar handwriting, were the words that made my eyes blur with tears. If Emily is misled, pressured, or married into a family that threatens her well-being, her inheritance will be safeguarded. In such a case, Michael will become the primary heir and caretaker of the estate until such time that Emily is free from undue influence. My heart stopped. John had seen this coming. He had known Emily's weakness, her soft heart, her tendency to fall for charm. He had known she might be taken advantage of, and he had trusted Michael to protect her. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I read the final line. If she turns against you, remember, love is patient. The truth will return her to you in time. Until then, protect her from herself. I clutched the paper to my chest, sobbing. My husband had foreseen everything, and Daniel? He had been trying to steal what was never Emily's to give. It didn't take long. That Sunday, Emily barged into the house again, Daniel right on her heels. She looked frantic, wild-eyed. Tell me it's not true, she screamed. Tell me Dad didn't leave everything to Michael. My hands trembled as I held the letter. Emily listened, but she cut me off. No, you lied to me my whole life. You made me believe I was special, that I was his favorite. And now you hand everything to Michael? Her voice broke into sobs, but Daniel's glare burned into me. You can't enforce that will. We'll challenge it in court. We'll drag this family name through the mud if we have to. Michael stepped in between us, his voice strong. Go ahead and try. You'll lose. Dad protected us from people like you, Daniel sneered. You think you've won? Emily belongs with me now. And if she walks away from this family, she takes her future with her. Emily's sobs grew louder. She turned to me, her face twisted with betrayal. You chose him over me. You always chose him over me. Her words cut deeper than any blade, but I stood my ground. No, Emily, I'm choosing the truth. The truth your father left for us. And one day you'll see that, she screamed, a raw sound that shattered me, and ran out of the house. Daniel followed, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. The silence that followed was heavier than any storm, and in that silence I realized Emily wasn't just lost. She was being dragged deeper into Daniel's world, and if I didn't stop him, I might lose her forever. After Emily stormed out for the second time, I knew I had to act fast. Daniel was tightening his grip on her, and if I didn't sever it, she'd lose everything. Not just her inheritance, but herself. The first thing I did was call the bank. I froze every account connected to the wedding fund. $90,000 gone from her fingertips in a single phone call. Then I met with Lawyer Harris and signed the documents to secure the deed to the house under my sole authority. No one, not Emily, not Daniel, could touch it now. That evening, I gathered Michael and Aunt Rose in the living room. I can't save Emily if she doesn't want to be saved, I said, my voice breaking. But I can stop Daniel from bleeding us dry. Michael clenched his fists. Good, he's been feeding her lies. If we expose him, maybe she'll finally see the truth. Aunt Rose nodded sharply. And I'll help. That man doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as this family. It was settled. We would cut the strings Daniel had tied around Emily, but the question remained, how? The answer came the next day when Claire showed up at my door with a folder in her hand. I couldn't sit by and watch anymore, she said. I asked my friend at the bank for help. This is Daniel's file. Inside were records of loans defaulted, accounts overdrawn, and credit cards maxed out. But the worst part? A small claims lawsuit from a former fiancé, accusing him of stealing money to fund his business ventures. My blood boiled. He had done this before. He was a predator, and my daughter was his next victim. Then this is how we expose him, I whispered. 2 weeks later, Emily's big day arrived, or at least what was left of it. Without the $90,000 fund, the grand ballroom venue had been canceled. The designer dress had been returned. The guest list had dwindled to a small group at a modest church, funded partly by Daniel's parents. Still, Emily walked down the aisle with tears in her eyes, convinced she was marrying the love of her life. But I couldn't let it happen. Just before the vows began, I stood up. My voice rang through the church. "Stop!" Gasps filled the room. Emily spun around, her face pale with shock. "Mom, what are you doing? Don't ruin my big day again." My hands shook as I held up the folder Claire had given me. "I'm not ruining your day. I'm saving your life. This man isn't who you think he is." I opened the folder and began to read aloud. Daniel's debts, his failed businesses, the lawsuit from his ex-fiancée. Every word echoed off the church walls. People murmured. Guests turned to stare at him. Daniel's face drained of color. He lunged toward me, but Michael intercepted, shoving him back. "Touch her and you'll regret it." Emily's veil trembled as she ripped it off, her eyes darting between me and Daniel. "Tell me it's not true," she begged him. "Tell me she's lying." But Daniel's silence was the loudest answer of all. Her scream tore through the church. "Get out! You don't belong here!" For the first time, those words weren't aimed at me. They were aimed at him. Daniel fled, his parents scrambling after him. The wedding was over. Emily collapsed on the altar steps, sobbing into her hands. And though my heart ached, I knew this was the only way. The weeks after the canceled wedding were hard. Emily barely spoke to me. She stayed in her room, crying, refusing food, drowning in the shame of what she almost threw her life away for. But slowly, things changed. She started joining us for dinners again. One evening, she came into the kitchen, her face swollen from tears. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I didn't see it. I didn't see what he was doing. I didn't see what I was becoming." I pulled her into my arms, and for the first time in months, I felt like I had my daughter back. Michael stood nearby, quiet as always, but I saw the relief in his eyes. Emily turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry for everything I said. You were right. You were always right." He hugged her tightly. "You're my sister. I'll always protect you, even from yourself." In that moment, I realized John had been right too. His words in the letter weren't just instructions. They were a prophecy. Emily had come back to us. As for Daniel, word spread quickly about the church scene. His reputation collapsed. The lawsuit resurfaced. And eventually he left town in disgrace. The house was safe. The inheritance was secure. But most importantly, my family was whole again. And when I sat Emily and Michael down one evening, I said the words I hoped they would never forget. Money can be stolen. Property can be signed away. But respect is earned, and it's worth more than anything. Respect matters more than money, and now we all know it. Emily squeezed my hand. Michael smiled faintly, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace.